Hey everyone, welcome back to AED Summit. We are here with Giorgio Carera. Did I pronounce?
Perfectly.
Nailed it.
Giorgio Carera, perfectly.
And Lee Smith
Correct, yes, sir.
from, let's see here, FAE USA.
FAE USA.
Is it FAE USA or is it FA USA?
FAE USA.
Okay,
Perfect.
FAE USA. Okay, so give us a little background on what you guys do. You're in the mulching business, but tell us a little bit about your product and what you guys do.
Sure. The company FAE has been around for over 30 years, and we are specialized in the land management equipment.
Okay.
So mulchers for vegetation management, from skid steer attachments to excavator attachments, and we also make self-propelled units. From 160 horsepower all the way up to 600 horsepower.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So we have a very complete line, comprehensive line of equipment for vegetation management.
So, there, even at the show today, we have quite a few different mulcher style heads. What really sets you guys apart from the competition with your heads?
So we would like to say all the time that we set the industry standards, and it's actually, if you look at our product, you can see the difference between any other manufacturer and ourselves. Our product is ahead of time, if you will, because we constantly do updates to the products to make sure that our customers and our dealers, they have the best product on the market with the highest productivity. So, and this comes out basically from the background or the feedback that we get from our customers. We are boots on the ground kind of people. We are out there every day with our customers, listening to them, watching them working and all that good stuff, So we can report back to the factory what we see, what works well, what needs to be improved, and they go back to the engineering board and every time and get the product better and better and better.
I love it. You're willing to put this right on the ground right now today to see where it's testing, to if not just make it better and get the results and the feedback right from the consumer.
Absolutely. That's key.
I've heard of FAE. I haven't been around them. I've watched the videos. They're phenomenal attachments that I have seen so far out on the market. You guys think you're changing the way the industry is actually going about clearing land? Because these heads have changed the way how land clearing is being done. Like, we used to go at it with brush hogs and big machines and rip the debris out and stuff. Now, to you guys, when your head's out there mulching, is starting to put out a fine product, and a fine product isn't big chunks of debris no more. I mean, you're talking small slivers of mulch from the chipping knives and regulators and kind of holding that back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll let Lee expand a little more on this because he's the product manager for the company, and he's out there a lot more than I am. But yes, we try to make this a mulcher as environmentally friendly as possible. And most of the time, these mulchers are actually, they do help the environment to get better, and to clear land in a friendly way, sustainable way as well. Like you said, in a lot of situations, they want the final product being very, very fine for any type of reason, depending on the job. And so we make and design this product to do that, But I let Lee expand on this as he's the product manager of the company.
So, I think it's a bigger picture item. So we don't only try to make a smaller product, but we try to do it with the least amount of passes as possible, because we always have our customer in mind, and we want them to be able to do the job for as least amount of money as they can, which is why we as a company is really focused on not only the unit, not only the way it works, but what we feel is one of the biggest factors in this whole process is building a support staff team with our dealer network for our customers across the country. Because the worst thing that you can do is sell a guy a mulcher, and when he has an issue, he's not able to work, because that's lost money and dead time. So
absolutely,
I appreciate that, just being out in the industry and into land management. That right there of the upkeep is huge. Now, looking at your head over there right now, I see you got a lot of regulators and stuff on it, and right now you're running some chipper knives basically on it right now. Do you have, for someone that'd be like in the rocky condition or somebody that'd be in the sandy condition, multiple different applications. You got different knives to go with different attachments, or is it a one size fit all?
No, we not only have different tools for each attachment, we also make different versions of each attachment. So the unit you see over there in our booth is called a UML SSL BL. So it goes on a...
Wow.
You got us there. And we're a little familiar with some of the mulching terms.
So what the BL stands for is bite limiter. So those are your limiters that restrict. So we also make that exact same unit in what we would call an open drum or a carbide drum.
Okay.
To be honest, that bite limiter style drum is really focused around the southeast, where we have little rock, a lot of soft trees, so it's able to process the material a lot better. Our biggest seller by far would be our UML SSL, which is a regular carbide tooth that has a door so you can get up in residential areas, work on the side of the road. However, you can still run blades, and we even make a mulching tooth that has stone resistant carbide on it.
Interesting.
So certain areas, like I've been into Maine and some other areas where rock is everywhere.
Sure.
And if you bust a carbide on a $60, $70 tooth, that's expensive. So if you make a tooth that absorbs that rock and are able to still process material, again, customer happy.
Now, when it comes to those heads, they're obviously the biggest concern when I'm running something around like on a skid steer is recovery time. What's it take for a head like that to, we don't have to go in depth of it getting designed, but what's in mind? It's interesting you said the fewest passes back and forth.
Right.
What's in mind of like a upkeep recovery time where not just the passes, but for someone like me that's sitting there waiting for the head to just spool back up?
Right.
What goes in the process of designing a head like this?
So what we really focus on is where we're in a good range GPM per PSI. We call that the hydraulic curve. And we don't want to have such a wide variance where we have such a long curve that it increases that recovery time. So we went to a VT two-speed motor several years ago. And the way that VT motor works is you can adjust the GPM, the CCs to get the right rotor speed, but you can also adjust the shift point of the motor that allows you to add that extra power to not only power through that larger material, but when you do stall the unit, it will recover in half the amount of time.
Wow.
Now that's interesting because I do not have that option where I stand today, but that is huge. Now, not only are you guys interested in the gallons per minute and the recovery time, but you're also pairing those heads with the right machine. You're asking the high flow questions, the gallon per minute, and what applications are after. So with you guys building your own units, you're making sure the schematics, everything's pairing up correctly.
Exactly. So in every case, for mulching heads as well, for our complete unit, we try to make it as productive as possible. For the heads, basically, we cover also the standard flow units, carriers, so we have a solution for that as well. That type of product is more for weekend warriors, if you like, hobby guys that they have, a few acres and they want to clear there during the weekend, etc. And then you move up to the professional
market,
with bigger heads for high flow, etc. And then for the dedicated unit, basically, like you said earlier, is basically a perfect match between the mulching head and the carrier. I mean, the amount of flow, the pressure, the horsepower, and everything's behind it is basically perfect for the mulching head, and vice versa. That mulching head is perfect for the carrier.
So you don't have to actually discriminate of, I run a Case or a John Deere or Cat or Takeuchi. You could pair it up with any.
Exactly.
We even have something better than that. This is new to the market, kind of.
Let's hear it.
So
we're ready.
So the VT motor we're talking about is adjustable. A couple screws you adjust.
Okay.
We try to do those before we ship them to our dealers. If not, our dealers are trained to do that for the carrier. But we also have this technology now we call the sonic technology. So what that is an electronic control for the motor. So basically all you have to do as a customer or dealer, let's say in your excavator, there'll be a control box inside your cab. Yep. You don't have to get out there with flow meters. You don't have to get out there with gauges. You just simply hook the unit up electronically. There's an ECU in there. You hit a button to program it. It'll go through some cycles and automatically program that head to your excavator.
Interesting.
For the best setup possible.
The best performance. Now, my biggest question right now, which is one of my pet peeves when it comes to the heads that I'm running right now. Obviously, in ideal conditions, everything's pretty flawless. Every hydraulic hose pops in, The head spools right up. There's no really like a big warm-up time. Now in the winter months, one of my biggest issue is like the hydraulic pressure. The oil gets so thick, and not every machine now is running hydraulic oil. Some of them are running like motor oil.
Yeah.
So I actually have to crack a valve. I actually took the flow meter off and put a plug on it so I could actually pull that off now to drain some of the oil to quick connect. Obviously now someone like I that's really versatile with the land clearing industry, the head's coming in on and off, whether it's hot or cold. Is there a way, and how do you get around like what I was just talking about? What goes into like something where in the cold environment for someone like me, the head just come off hot, the machine's hot, the head's cool, and I go to plug in. Is this still an issue today, or is this something you guys are able to look at and help adjust?
Are there, I guess, some reliefs in there?
Yeah, some relief valves or
Correct.
like just to get the hydraulic. Like we got the little quick relief valves on the machine itself,
Right.
but is there something else on the head or that we could do to put on the head?
So we're from Georgia, so we don't know that kind of cold.
Okay. Well, when we left, it was like 3 degrees
Yeah,
cold,
so-
so that oil was thick as shit.
But we have some valving in there. We have what we call some anti-Cav valves. So a lot of times those anti-cavitation valves will sense that. And what
Okay.
they'll do is they'll like almost chatter, open, close, open, close. And every time you're bypassing or stopping that oil, it's starting to build up heat. So a lot
Yes.
of times that will help build the oil heat up a little quicker. But still, we have units up in Maine and up in the Northwest and in Minnesota. A lot of those guys, to get around that, will just crank them up and let them kind of slow spin
Right.
to build it up. But that's time consuming. But we do have some valves inside of our unit that will help with that. Not necessarily fix it, but it'll help.
So let me shift gears on you guys for a minute. We've just had a couple skid steers get released here relatively recently. I know ASV, I think, came out with a new 130 horse motor on their unit. Case released the new 620. How has that impacted what you guys are doing, and how will you interface with these new machines, or has that really been a struggle since you're already kind of playing in the larger dedicated market?
We're happy about that because everybody is moving up in horsepower, flow, and pressure, and everything's on the ski steer. Our mulching heads, they basically cover, a wide range of horsepower, let's say that way, for lack of a better words. And we're happy because they're gonna make the head
Makes you shine more.
more
Right.
productive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly. More productive, less stress on the head, less stress on the carrier. Also, because in the past, basically, the head was always being able to manage a certain amount of horsepower, right? But the ski steer, we're not there yet. We're not 120, 130 horsepower yet, so the head could have produced more, but it couldn't. And the ski steer, sometimes they were kind of, limited, etc. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is actually kind of playing into where you were already at.
Exactly. And guess what? I mean, the final product is produced by the head, and the point discussed was the head is not producing enough. No, the head can produce a lot more, but if the
You're,
ski
power
steer
pack.
you're
cannot pull your
restricted
power-
right there.
Right.
So
Well, and the amount of damage that these things could really do up close.
Yeah.
Like, we're running in between houses and cars and everything else, and the control actually of the debris and how close you could get, like in a residential environment, for example, of doing a 5-acre land clear, is really fascinating that you could control the discharge
Right.
and how fast this is destroying it and the product that you're leaving.
You're touching a great point because safety always been at the center of everything we do. Having the mulching door in the front, like you said, you can control the direction of the discharge.
Yes.
Especially if you work in residential area on the side of the road, et cetera, et cetera. If you're in the middle of the woods, in the
Yeah,
middle
you
of
let it
the
fly.
jungle, you don't really.
Well,
I mean, I have literally watched a chunk of wood go flying
Oh, yeah.
300 feet,
Oh,
and I'm
absolutely.
like going,
Right.
But it's amazing. I've actually ripped out some bumper jacks with these things,
yeah.
and there isn't a whole lot that stops
Yeah.
these mulcher heads anymore.
And you have some of the mulching heads out there in the market that do not offer the mulching door, or it is an option. For us, it's standard, period. I mean, if you're asking me to buy a mulching head with no door, I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to sell it to you. Cause
Now, explain, George, explain that door to me, why you just said that right there. As a consumer, to me, Door or no door? Why are you standing there saying you got to have this door?
Well, there's two reasons mainly. Okay, one is safety,
Okay.
right? And secondly is also the size of the final product. So when the door is all the way closed, you get the final product, which is smaller. You don't care about having a final product. You can open the door more. Final product is a little bigger, so you can control the size of the product. But again, we stress on safety, safety. These things, if you don't use them properly,
You can
they're
kill
dangerous.
someone in a hurry. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now-
I want to say they're dangerous.
Yes.
Now,
And
Lee,
it's not a result of the product; it's a result of the user.
Exactly, you're exactly right.
We can't fix that, by
Yes,
the way.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, I've disintegrated some deers pretty quick.
Yes.
Let's talk about a little bit about your head, not just the teeth no more, but the regulators. How's the regulators actually designed to run the head? Like, what happens there with when you're hitting the product and you're letting the debris hit right to the chips with the door? How's all this kind of work?
So on most of our units, we use what we call counter knives. So we're not really cutting, but we're shredding. So we have some ribbed bars that go across the back of the machine, and as the material's coming across those, the teeth are actually dragging it down and shredding it, right? So if that door's closed, that material will stay in for another pass. So that's one reason we have a lot longevity on our teeth, and we tend to make a better product than some. But the rings that we use on there, if you can think of a planer,
Yep.
that's exactly what that is. So if you're a guy that maybe hasn't ran a lot of mulchers, you could jump in and run that unit and never have to worry about force feeding it, because those rings are going to stop you from being able to take too
Wow.
big of a bite. But the way they're designed, they don't hold material, so you're able to get that stuff out of there.
So with the less passes, just what you said, that thing being a planer, running extremely fast isn't always the exact answer where you're picking up a couple of times, but to let the head to actually
Right.
work in the regrind
right.
on just the going forward and then the backup pass, for example, or just whether it's a smaller product, just a running forward, but letting the head actually do its job and not force feeding it is where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, not everybody's running a mulcher, but everybody's running a saw or drill.
Yep.
And if you try to saw too fast or you try to drill too fast, you're not letting that bit do what it's supposed to do, and the first thing it does is stop.
Sure.
That's the same as a mulcher. You have to let it do its work.
Now, the heads that we run, they're not always on the ground.
Right.
They're up in there disintegrating trees to get everything down. Is there an option with your guys' product for basically the brush guard on the top, the push bar? Is it a fixed, or does it have like a hydraulic where it could bend over the smaller saplings?
So on our smaller units, such
Yep.
as you see over there, it's just going to be a fixed push bar, because you got so much tilt with the skid loader.
Okay.
But when we go into our dedicated units, which go on our orange carriers, they are hydraulic, so you can get those things way out in front of you.
Because they're not lifting up as high.
Right,
That's
exactly.
But they're the ones with the big horsepower.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Okay.
That's right.
So let me shift gears, and kind of my final question for you guys. I do want to touch. You just started to touch on it, Giorgio. In the dirt world, Rick and I are dirt contractors, and we rape the earth. That's the way the green people view us. But you guys are kind of the tip of the spear there, because you're out there, people seeing trees being shredded, and oh my God, this is terrible. But that's not reality. That's a perception. Can we expound a little bit on this? Is actually, first of all, it's something that's never going to stop. As we talked about earlier, infrastructure is always going to expand. More and more people need more shopping centers, more homes, more streets. But on top of that, when it comes to forestry management, this is a healthy thing to happen. Can you expound on that and talk about why this is an essential industry?
Absolutely. I mean, it's an important industry. We call it vegetation management, or forestry management is fundamental to prevent disasters. Great example. Look at the West Coast.
Yes.
Look what happened on the West Coast especially in the last
I would rather see that head climbing than the flames to my house.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, you hit it right on the head there.
Exactly. And so West Coast, complete disaster just because they didn't do vegetation management or forestry management when they needed to in the right season, and even back in the past.
Yes.
So you can prevent forest fires if you do the right vegetation management. You can mostly prevent them or reduce the chance of it happening, basically. And we have a bunch of machines working out there, and we feel good about it because we're doing it the right thing for the environment.
Absolutely.
Basically. Other applications, food plots. Food plots is another big application.
Yeah.
for
That's
us.
how Rick got his start in the.
Yeah, so I actually got my started in with Nick, which isn't here with no more because of COVID. He died.
Oh, no.
Well, he owned Killer Food Plots. I reached out to him. We became really good acquaintances and friends. And it was a booming market, and he was constantly calling for the service.
Right.
And just Michigan alone, like, you can't bait no more, so you have to have a food plot planted.
Yeah.
He took it to another game of, hey, you want to go to Iowa, you want to go to Ohio, Indiana, Kansas. Why are we going so far? Because we're installing food plots.
Yeah.
Right? But you're changing the industry standards of just building, and that's the other thing to touch on the heads that we really even haven't talked about just to the whole mulching industry is you're not sitting there burying a bunch of debris no more. You're not clearing the land like you just said, Giorgio, on the food plots and shoving it off to the side like it's an eyesore and maybe throwing some dirt and hopefully it turns into a wild flowers and don't look like shit. You're actually breaking something down from so massive
That's right.
to something so small for people, the end user, to deal with in food plots.
Right, and the biomass that you put back in the ground by using these mulchers, in a lot of application, can be a food plot, can be some other type of application where instead of wasting the biomass, taking it away and do whatever with it, you reuse it into the dirt, into the soil again, and that's a great thing. On the construction side, to your point, I mean, we need to develop residential buildings and commercial buildings and roads and whatnot. I mean, those trees, they need to be removed somehow. It's better to use mulchers versus the traditional methods like bulldozers, excavators, and create a complete disaster.
You just said something
soil-wise.
real quick, not to stop you. Are you guys capable of hooking that up to the bulldozer yet? Because I've seen a couple cat machines roaming around that have a mulcher head attached to it,
Right.
if not a blade. It kicks off and puts a blade on.
The only things I can say about your comment, we are not here to advertise the product, so just look at those mulchers a little closely.
Okay. I was just wondering, I seen it the other day. I'm like,
But
Yeah.
that thing was mulching?
Yeah.
I turned it around. Okay.
Yeah, in some situation, they adapted the the bulldozers, got a little bit more hydraulic power, et cetera, so the cooling capacity as well. So they're able to run the mulchers on the bulldozers.
So you guys are looking for the dedicated guys in the
Well, I feel like
land
you take a
clearing.
massive performance hit the second you try to do multiple things versus
correct.
dedicated to your craft.
Right.
You're going to perform.
Absolutely. We do supply other OEMs without mentioning the names.
That's okay.
We're not here for that. So, and the reason why those larger OEM, they choose our product is because the product is designed in a certain way. It produces,
Consistency. Sure.
and higher productivity than other mulchers, etc. So we are the preferred mulching machines, attachment suppliers to large OEMs.
Now, that head that you got over there next to it is for an excavator style
Yes, sir.
hookup. Does that got to take a dedicated machine to run your head because of the hydraulics and all the...
As far as like a power pack?
Yeah,
No,
power
no.
pack.
So do you need a power pack?
None of our machines, you have to have a power pack.
Okay.
Because what we do is we design the flow and pressure requirements. We're basing it off what those excavators can put to us. Most of the newer excavators have put in some type of a tool circuit or a priority valve, so they're able to supply a dedicated X amount of gallons. That's what we do. Now, if a guy's going to be using an excavator all day just grinding and that's all he's going to do, the power pack is going to be more productive.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
But you don't have to have that exclusively to run.
Not at all.
Okay.
No, sir. No, sir. And if I can add one more thing to the
Go ahead.
environment thing. 'cause
Absolutely.
This is something that we've done all the way down to Peru that people don't realize. We do a lot, our customers do a lot of grinding for habitat. There's a lot of wildlife in this country that is close to being extinct, and a lot of them are becoming more extinct because there's so much overgrowth and so many predators now. So by going in and taking our machines and getting rid of some of that undergrowth and creating more of a safe area for these animals, we're actually also helping animals to not be extinct. I went all the way down to Peru and did it for a sloth, believe it or not. We were clearing.
Really?
I can believe that, because the DNR in Michigan has actually incorporated this into in-house now with these heads because of habitat for the grouse and stuff like that. Right. So.
Well, this has been really interesting. We really appreciate you guys coming on and talking about your product.
We want to thank you guys just even for coming up to the AED Summit live booth here and doing some talking.
Thanks
we look forward to what could come.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you guys for watching.
Absolutely. We'll catch you guys here shortly with some more members of AED.